Hello, everybody, and welcome here live from Rome and virtually around the world here at Care Community Telecom Infrastructure session. We're going to talk about how will 5G change the wholesale industry today and tomorrow, and I think the wait is over, and understanding actually the impact on our business and life from both a positive and sometimes even negative things. So I'm very happy, very pleased to have next to me Dottoressa Cristina Maschione. So thank you very much. I have people from Sri Lanka joining us, and also Gint is there with us. So I'll give them a quick second and a quick minute actually to introduce themselves. And Cristina, if I may invite you to kick it off quickly. E funziona adesso. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you for inviting me. No? Okay. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, everyone. I'm very pleased to be here today. I'll say a few things about myself very quickly. My name is Maria Cristina Mascione, and I work in the enterprise marketing of TIM. I have been working on 5G services, solutions, use cases since 2019. So I'm very happy to explain my experience about the topic. And I will say something very shortly about TIM. TIM is a leading group for ICT services in Italy and in Brazil. And TIM provides infrastructure, mobile and fixed infrastructure, and cloud infrastructure and data center. And it also provides communication and entertainment services for both the enterprise market and the consumer market. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Cristina, for being here, and very honored to have you here live, ladies and gentlemen, next to me here in Rome. So let's go a little bit further, and if I may, Gint, where are you? And please, a quick introduction from your side, please.
Today, I'm in our headquarters, Luxembourg office at SES headquarters, and we have a lot going on here. We're getting ready to launch our SES-17 satellite. So we've all been quite busy here. I head up network strategy and digital architecture for SES, where we are a content and connectivity provider for everywhere on the earth. We're a distinctive satellite provider in that we offer fiber from the sky. So if you need 1 gig, 10 gig, or even more connectivity, we can provide it nearly anywhere on the world and deliver you directly straight into the cloud. And we can do similar types of things with content. We can pick up your content and send it wherever you need it to your studios, process it in the cloud, and distribute it to the exact neighborhood it needs to go to. I'm hoping that capability of being able to reproduce content on the fly, do things like an injection for specific neighborhoods. Imagine tying that up with an edge infrastructure with mobile edge compute. And that kind of leads into today's discussion. How does 5G tie together all sorts of networks to run on all sorts of services?
Thank you so much. And I can imagine, again, it's a very exciting times for you over there, right? So let's move to Sri Lanka, ladies and gentlemen. So we go all around the world to Anuradha. Please, Anuradha, thank you for being here. And please take a minute to introduce yourself and the company. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Good evening to you all from Kandy, Sri Lanka. I'm joining from Sri Lanka. And it's a pleasure to be here. This is going to be a hybrid version of a conference, very much unfamiliar to me. I used to travel a lot, but circumstances are not so helpful these days. But anyway, it's a pleasure to join all of you. I work for Sri Lanka Telecom, the largest fixed and mobile operator in Sri Lanka. I do two jobs mainly within the organization. One is actually designing solutions for enterprises. The second one, I also work with the R&D team doing research and development on multiple different areas, including 5G Open RAN. And with regard to 5G, we are very well in the early stages. We have few trial networks, but there are no commercial networks in Sri Lanka as of today.
Thank you so much, and also for you, a very warm welcome, Anuradha. So let's kick it off, guys. I mean, the current landscape, and Christina, maybe you'll be so nice to kick it off. From your point of view, and from Tim as not only the Italian but also a global player, who and what are the key drivers, and what are the latest developments in 5G in our mobile service provisioning? What can you share with us?
Thank you, Eric. Yeah, the question is very interesting and complex, and it gives me the opportunity to speak about the team strategies about 5G. Yeah, the key drivers, as usual, are mainly economics. And I think that from our point of view, meeting lots of customers, the interest on 5G solution is real, is very, the customer, especially the enterprise market customer, are great, have great expectation about 5G. And of course, the challenge is to fulfill these expectations. And we are working a lot about it. At the moment, we are in the deployment phase of our 5G network in Italy. And what we want to do is to provide a solution for every vertical sector. So we are building up a portfolio of solution and use cases for manufacturing, for smart city, for e-tourism, e-health. And as we were talking this morning, the pandemic highlighted that there is a need of digital transformation. And the 5G can help a lot in this process, because from our point of view, from team point of view, 5G is one of the main pillars of the digital transformation process. And so we are trying to put this in place, and of course from the point of view of the enterprise customer, because I know that's the market I know better, because of course it's my job. I think the main key driver is to find the best growth path for efficiency and for profitability. And we, as team, we want to do that, to provide a solution that can fit the needs of our customers.
Thank you so much, Christina. So let's take the plane and go a little bit more more east, Anuradha. From your point of view, how do you see the mobile landscape? What is there? What is out there? What are the latest developments, and what can you share with us, please?
In our part of the world, the predominant mobile technologies today are fixed 4G and mobile 4G. And 5G, as I said, are in test and trial networks on 3.5 gigahertz. The regulator is yet to auction or release the spectrum for 5G officially, but they have allowed us to have a few trial networks, especially in the capital city, Colombo, and including our company, a couple of other operators are running test networks as of today for 5G. And when it comes to mobile in general in Sri Lanka, we have pretty much like 100% coverage on 2G GSM, and then 3G and 4G. There are a few challenges, especially given the terrain and the economic factors and several other factors, but we find going last mile wireless, especially in rural and remote areas, is quite feasible and quite attractive compared to other options that we deal today, especially fiber to the home. So we think that with 5G, we should be able to extend on what we have already developed on 4G to the next level, especially on fixed wireless access and mobile.
Okay, thank you so much, Gint. I mean, having a global helicopter view, what can you share with us? What do you see happening? What's for you, let's say, the key characteristics for the mobile landscape we see today?
So I'd like to build on, you know, one previous point just made, and you know, the theme of integrating multiple kinds of access and even transport networks. We have to continue to support legacy access networks, 2G, 3G, 4G, and so forth. We have a lot of IoT-based applications, you know, that use LTE machine-to-machine based specs. So the point is diverse access networks. And of course, I'm pounding on this because the access network I'm worried about is the satellite access network. And I think this is the need and the application of unifying access networks and having a common infrastructure is shared across all service providers, no matter where they fit in that value chain of the access provider, the transport provider, the business services provider, the cloud provider. We can see that the 5G core, with its support for diverse technologies, is really, really valuable to enable service providers to get more value out of legacy assets and to come up with the best time period to upgrade to new technology and so forth. So, you know, one example, an exciting feature in 3GPP is access traffic steering, switching, and splitting. We're starting to see service providers like T-Mobile Germany that have DOCSIS or ADSL subscribers, and they're enhancing their service by adding a fixed wireless link. So you end up having two links, and with ATSSS, you're able to do packet level steering, switching, and splitting of the sessions, and get an awful lot more juice out of that existing physical plant that may be running your legacy technology. So there's a lot of things that enable the best of both worlds, with both worlds being the future and the past, so that you...
I think we're losing Gint. Well, hopefully he'll come back to us, and he can finish his sentence. He will get, of course, on the floor, so that's not a problem. So before coming to the next question, Christina, first of all, I would like to warm welcome the audience here. And ladies and gentlemen, if you have a question, this is an interactive session, so please raise your hand. The microphone will come to you, and you can ask all the questions you would like to. Okay. So having said that, Christina, how will 5G, from your point of view, change the wholesale, but also the enterprise market? And what are the current market challenges, and which strategic opportunities do you see?
Yes, okay. 5G, it's not only the next generation of the 4G, I think. Everyone knows maybe that 5G has some characteristics that like low latency, ultra reliability. With 5G, you can manage a great number of devices, and we have high bandwidth. So these four characteristics together can allow a very high number, a remarkable number of use cases. And that's why the enterprise market is interested in this technology. 5G can help the industries to find new solutions. And if you need to digitalize a factory, for example, maybe 5G is the best solution because of this characteristic. And as team, we met many, as I said, many customers, and we have an experience on it. And we see that at the moment, there are a lot of interest for smart ports, for example, or also smart cities. And because 5G is a sort of platform, and many partners can collaborate, with 5G, we can build up an ecosystem and find the best solutions for each vertical market. And that's very important for the enterprises. And as team, for example, we at the beginning, we are focusing a lot on manufacturing. And because of course the 5G can put in place the convergence between IT and OT. And so we decided to sign an agreement, a commercial agreement and technical agreement with Comau. For example, Comau is leader in the automation, industrial automation, and it's an international footprint company. And together with Comau, we developed a new offer for the manufacturing sector, and team and Comau together wanted to put in place a wireless factory. And without cables, the factory can be more easily reconfigured. The machinery and the production line machinery can be easily reconfigured, and that means that you save time, and time is money. So from many points of view, 5G can help customer to leverage resources and to leverage revenues.
Must have been quite a challenge and extremely exciting, that project.
Yes,
right?
it was. It took us many months. It's not an easy job because, of course, we needed to, but we put the best of the two companies together. So that's.
Well, what an achievement, and congrats on that one, because it's not been easy. I can imagine. So Anuradha, I mean, from your point of view, I mean, you tipped already on it, and especially on the how things can change. But what can you tell me from your point of view? How will 5G, or even, you know, I know you're more on the 4G, but how will 5G change the wholesale and the enterprise market in your part of the world? And what are the current market challenges, and which strategic opportunities do you see in your region?
Now, for us, I think what I personally would like to see 5G as the natural next step of 4G, because every 10 years, whether you like it or not, you guess the next G, right? So next will be 6G. So it's rather than talking about what are the challenges of 5G in general, but rather we need to accept the fact that it's the latest technology, and soon most of the vendors and most of the manufacturers will stop manufacturing 2G, 3G equipment, and also eventually 4G equipment, and 5G will be the latest technology. So on the side of what enterprises really request from us today is they are actually, they also want to transform themselves. So for example, as Christina also mentioned, it's not quite comparable to what you have in Italy, but the factories are looking at automation aspects and how to enhance their manufacturing in manufacturing plants. And these are some of the few use cases that we have identified very early stages of our 5G strategy. And other than that, we generally have this requirement of enhanced mobile broadband. So it's always the thirst for the bandwidth, and we understand that is one of the very early use cases for us when 5G is launched in Sri Lanka. Because there are, as I mentioned, there are a lot of places that we actually cannot deliver the acceptable levels of broadband technologies. So we are struggling with wireline technologies for obvious reasons. And then we look at wireless and 4G, of course, we have certain capacity limitations, but 5G has capacity, but we have then distance and penetration challenges. So that is one aspect on the side of delivering high throughput broadband connections generally for everybody, residential and business. But for business, as of today, it's only very niche areas, as I mentioned, factory automation and maybe things like we have already tested monitoring trucks and fleets using 5G in urban cities, especially to manage traffic. Those are very specific use cases, but that is the current situation as of working out a 5G strategy for us.
Thank you so much, Anuradha. And Gint, fantastic that you could rejoin us. So welcome again. Gint, we were just talking about how 5G will change the wholesale, but also, and probably even more in driving it, the enterprise market. So from your point of view, where do you see, in a nutshell, the market challenges and which strategic opportunities do you see?
So I'd like to highlight how powerful the benefits are to the ecosystem. I was looking at one study on how much revenue a 5G chip vendor can make. In this example, inside an iPhone, there's around $15 of revenue for this RF chip manufacturer to make inside of an iPhone. As soon as that same functionality is put into a vehicle, especially a commercial vehicle, there are so many vertical industry applications, along with multiple networks involved. You've got IoT involved in there. You've got the application that you can have a mobile base station platform. So a commercial vehicle that may be platooning, driving in a group with other vehicles. You can see that there's a networking need between the platoon. There's a capacity. It can join the network in a different way. It can become a donor of capacity or a donor of capability. That's just one simple example. As we go through all these vertical applications, everyone in the value chain, the chip manufacturers, the end user of the applications, the vertical industry enterprises that are all over, the smart city applications, the traffic infrastructure. This is going to be so dramatically different from the past, which was mobile broadband, and keep on giving more connectivity and more bandwidth to support the over-the-top applications. And that capital asset and capability never ends up garnering more revenue. This is a big change. Everybody is going to benefit with more capability, more value, and more revenue going around. I think it's really exciting to see what's happening. But of course, this involves coordination, and the coordination on the platform and the capabilities and the applications is 5G, the entire standard set.
So talking about somebody who is completely convinced about 5G, right, Gint?
Let's take it easy on the convinced, but committed.
Committed.
There's
There you
still,
go.
there is the possibility for a lot of failures. So I'm not discounting the failures. So I would say I have a reservation on the convinced. I don't know where we're going to succeed and where we're going to fail. The opportunity is definitely there, and let's see how good we can make it.
And Christina?
No, I completely agree, and I think that Kim, said it perfectly right. I think there is a B2B and a B2B2C market, and 5G can address both. And I completely agree on this vision about the ecosystem. And I think that in this ecosystem, the telco operator have to collaborate with service providers, and I think the ecosystem is more complex than just 5G, because 5G is one of the pillar of the digital transformation, but it's not the only one, because we have to take into consideration artificial intelligence. We have to take into consideration the cloud applications and sensor devices. It's a complex environment, and if everyone collaborates, then for sure we can, reach the added value that we are talking about.
Thank you. So, again, there are some challenges, and of course, the huge opportunities. So, and everybody's talking about, the lower latency and so on. So, can you share with us, where do we stand with the latency reductions, and what do we win? Can you make it a little bit more grabbable?
Yes. Yeah. So let me be really clear. If we look at smart healthcare, maybe specifically clinical care situation, where we have the smart ICU, and we think that there's more critical equipment involved with critical situations, interfacing with providing healthcare, monitoring the body and so forth. And we can clearly see that low latency becomes critical. We can take it into a less critical situation, but very demanding, and we look at video game interactivity. So, you have the control interactions of the gaming controllers that have a big real-time need. Certain types of updates need to be real-time. And the point that I'm driving is there is a subset of ultra low latency, low latency. The numbers vary based on interface. And, I like to take this into mobile backhaul. When you design a mobile backhaul capability and the associated network, each different control plane interface has a different latency requirement. And that produces, there's a different throughput and a different latency. And of course, control plane interfaces are much less bandwidth. So you really need to look at the whole requirement. The ultra low latency that's driving the edge really involves putting a capability closer to the point of demand. And this is why we need to have the far edge. There are applications where you have to have a high degree of autonomy. Flight control is another example. When we have different kinds of UAVs providing a variety of services, whether it's security UAVs that are going to be involved with critical responses of some sort, there's a lot of different points in time where you need to have ultra low latency. You can have a period of time of autonomous operations. And again, things like AI have to tie all of this together. So really, there are many, many different ultra low latency requirements. There are very big blanket statements saying that you need ultra low latency from the tower all the way across the entire backhaul. And that's not necessarily true. That's why we now have a distributed RAN architecture We have the front haul, the mid haul, and the back haul. And typically you're going to see a very clear split of different latency requirements, and then the far edge being deployed and so forth. So there's a lot of complexity there. We have to figure out how to do it. But, you know, we have network slicing as a very fundamental solution of how we can manage this in a standardized infrastructure service that everyone can use.
Thank you again. Anuradha, you want to quickly comment on that? Or you want to add something to it?
Yeah, I agree with Gint, and like another perspective that I want to bring to the discussion of latency is actually the geography that you're talking about. For example, if you take my country, we are an island with like if you take the length and the breadth, it's like 400 kilometers and 200 kilometers. We already have like a typical maximum latency in our IP transport network less than 5-6 milliseconds. So so generally latency is not much of a challenge for us when it comes to 5G, but we understand that when it comes to the clock transport, there could be some issues. But generally, if you have the right edges at the right places, especially when you talk about the distributed architecture of the 5G network, I think though there are challenges, but I just want to bring the context of the size of the network that you're talking about also matters when it comes to the latency.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Well, another, let's say, the topic which is becoming more and more a hot topic is security. So again, maybe to you, what are the security concerns we should consider and we should definitely address?
Yeah, you know, that with the experience of me just dropping off a while ago here,
There you go.
anytime I use Zoom-based infrastructure, I really need to lower down my level of security. Is really complex problem because no matter which side of the sword you're on, it's going to cut one way or the other, and you know, you need to find the sweet spot where you get your benefits at the right trade-offs. Security is horribly complex, and definitely creating a very, very high quality large scale infrastructure that users can consume in necessary bytes, in modular bytes, so that you've got your ultra lightweight solutions where you don't have much at risk. And then you have other environments. For example, imagine defense organizations, national defense organizations that are in defense treaties, wanting to build an overlay network on top of a combination of national public infrastructure and then, let's say, military assets. And this is exactly something that we can do with the type of core network that we're developing in 5G and with 6G coming up. We can verify that a communication path is completely a clear channel, free of specific hardware, specific virtualized functions, that, you know, everything in the chain in the overlay network is of the highest security standard. And we can build these ultra secure dynamic overlay networks using even untrusted public networks. So, you know, that's kind of an example, but then the implication is there's a massive amount of security capability and infrastructure that you need to have in the core network that extends all the way out to the user plane, all the way out to the terminals, and every single bit of the service chain infrastructure end to end.
Thank you so much. No, I just wanted to address it because by the end of the day, it's becoming more and more important, and if not to say a very hot topic. So thank you for that. Now, Christina, Coming back to the business models, they keep on being adjusted, and investments are becoming very tough, actually. So how do we decide on our resources? For instance, private LTE or 5G?
Well, it's a technical and economic issue, I think, of course. And I think LTE and 5G are not mutually exclusive. And from my point of view, the choice should be driven by the use cases, by the requirements that you need. So both of them are solution based on a dedicated spectrum and dedicated operational functions and assets. But 5G is best in some ways, for example, because we were already talking about low latency and of course, security. So in some cases, 5G is the option when you have to have, for example, autonomous guided vehicles, or you have to have collaborative robot. You need a low latency, you need you need high bandwidth. And so from this point of view, because you need a combination of functions, probably 5G is the best in these cases. And for these reasons, maybe the 5G private network is a solution for many enterprises. And as team, we have been working a lot in developing an offer. So we can provide a private G5 network on-prem. And just maybe 2 months ago, or recently anyway, we deployed the first on-prem microwave private network, 5G private network at Exor International. And but we of course, it's a solution that needs to be tailored on the requirements of the customers, but it's there. It's available for team customers, and we provide the telco node, the SIM, and there is a local breakout of the traffic, data traffic, and so it's a solution that, in my opinion, is the best of breed of 5G. So,
okay, thank you. Anuradha, how is it with you, and how do you decide on any tough decisions over there?
I really did not get the question. Can you repeat, please?
Sorry, please. I mean, the business models, they keep on being adjusted, and the investments are really becoming really tough. I mean, we're talking about zillions of dollars here. So how do we decide on resources? And I mean, talking about private LTE or 5G.
Yeah, when it comes to resources, like I think all of us agree that the major portion of the investment on any wireless network is in the RAN. And for example, in our country, we have like 4 mobile operators and 3 fixed operators serving 23 million populations, quite competitive market. And having understood that, and also the requirement of connecting the unconnected, the regulator, the government has decided to come out with certain public-private partnerships arrangements where they do certain network audits and find what are the spots which are not covered, and then propose a common infrastructure location where a tower probably they give us the location or the space, and like we now have started manufacturing towers locally in Sri Lanka rather than importing them. And then with the support of the regulator, we have put up like not few, I think a modest number of new base stations covering areas which have not covered previously. So that is one approach. We are partnering with the government. The operators are partnering with the government, and certain incentives are there, certain tax benefits are there when you go and cover area where it is not yet covered. So that is one aspect of that. And I think when it comes to private networks, one of the key capabilities of 5G, as the two other panelists also mentioned, the network slicing part and the ability to virtualize most of the stuff other than the radio antenna gives us immense flexibility to provide not just private 5G, but many other services to the enterprises and other customers, because we're talking about dealing very much on software rather than on hardware. So we don't have already deployed scenarios yet, but I hope once 5G networks are in place, this private 5G is something that we can deliver or make use of the investments that we have made without additional investments. It is something very appealing to the enterprises.
Thank you. Talking about investments, Gint, I mean, you're investing a huge amount of money. Do you think that spectrum sharing and will enhance, let's say, for prospects in the emerging markets?
Yeah, let me please make my comments personally on my own personal opinion on this, because at SES, some of you may have noticed that what happened with the C-band in the United States, and we're returning the C-band, and we have to go through the entire exercise of taking all of our users that are on C-band and moving them to another band. And of course there is compensation for it, but there's all this cost of moving. So my personal observation and senses are around the point of view that spectrum is a public asset. It's a public good, and the way that it gets used is extremely important, that it is to the benefit of the public. And users of the spectrum, let's say licensees, but the businesses that get to exploit that spectrum with a license, we have to understand that when we compare it to an irrevocable right to use on a submarine cable between consortium members that built that private asset, we will kind of see that a lot of businesses that invest in building infrastructure that's going to exploit the spectrum, it makes things really hard, and it makes it more difficult for that business to want to invest more infrastructure to be dependent on that spectrum that ideally gets oversubscribed. So at any point in geolocation of demand for that spectrum, we really need to figure out how to share that spectrum, potentially oversubscribing it and maximizing its utilization to produce the greatest social value for that community. This is a really important focus, and I tell the service providers that are going down the route of licensing and depending on that spectrum, they really should not lose sight of the value that they're bringing to the table and facilitating sharing. And it's painful, it's difficult. We need to find a way to allow multiple parties to exploit and profit from the investments that they make to use that spectrum and maximize the social value and the public good. So I think it's really hard for everyone. Definitely, we have a lot of work to do here. It's a very complex problem, and we need to keep our sense of responsibility high.
Thank you so much. Looking at the time, guys, we're sort of getting to the end of this this exciting 5G panel session. So, Christina, what do you think is next? Some famous. What do you see, and what will be emerging? I know you don't have the crystal ball. Nobody has, but what do you think? What do you expect?
Well, I have, I don't have the crystal ball, as you said, but what I hope is, for my company at least, what I see is that we should, because we are a telco company, basically. In my opinion, it would be very, very good, and we are working a lot in this direction to go beyond connectivity. So to be a service provider, an end-to-end service provider. So what I think is that the market is looking for end-to-end services, basically, and not only connectivity. We have to do something more. We have to offer, everything, maybe all-in solutions, and with assurance, with also with a consultancy phase at the beginning when you meet the customer. So we are working in this direction and beyond connectivity, let's say.
That's the key word.
That's the key word for TIM, at least.
Yeah, and that's what we need to look out for.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Anuradha, some last words from your side. How do you see let's say, the near future, what's heading towards us?
For us, especially looking at the local context and the subcontinent, what I see is that the pandemic will soon be over, but the impacts that it has created in the society at large will last for a longer period, especially like learning from home, working from home were things that were not quite practiced in our part of the world, but now people are getting used to that. So that makes several requirements and changes on the side of the operator to especially to expand the footprint and make sure that the people who are not yet connected are connected first. That's the number one priority for us. And then comes the bandwidth, delivering acceptable bandwidth for them to actually do these things online, especially learning from home and working from home. That is the number two priority. And then as the businesses recover after the post-pandemic period, we also need to help them to come to a level where they were a couple of years back, because especially the tourism industry, the hospitality industry were hardly hit because of the pandemic in our part of the world. So we need to help our enterprise customers and then have a kind of a sustainable model for every one of us to actually win all our requirements going forward.
Okay, thank you so much. Gint, it's your turn. Some famous last words. What can we expect? What's beyond 5G?
Well, I think right, exactly. So so this is the thing we're trying to figure out, is what's the right trajectory for 6G. And as a satellite provider, with release 17 of 3GPP, we've got non-terrestrial networks settled in there as a native access network of the 3GPP network, right? And the 5G network, with or without the new radio and waveform being supported by the satellite. I want to emphasize that there's both modes, with and without new radio for the satellite terminal and the satellite. It's important because I'm highlighting the theme of, multiple access networks and the potential ability to bring your own waveform, bring your own RF. It absolutely can do that, but we want to avoid that mess as much as possible. So what's coming is I'm looking on the screen and I see to everyone's right, Smart CDC has an interesting graphic. You can see a mesh in the sky there that they're showing above the Earth. So imagine we have base stations and radio towers fixed on the ground. Then we have base stations and other services moving around on ships, on commercial vehicles. We also have them in UAVs. We have them in high altitude platforms. We have the low Earth orbit constellations, and this is a full mesh in the sky. We have medium orbit where we don't need so many satellites. With 8 satellites, we can cover nearly the whole Earth. Let's say everything from 50 degrees north, 50 degrees south, no problem. Add an inclined orbit, another 8 satellites or so, and we've got the poles covered. And then we have GEO. So imagine all of these transport networks intermeshed, finding the quote best path for connectivity and the optimal way to distribute content. And you get amazing jumps in latency improvement and so forth. So in 6G, what I see is that standards like integrated access and backhaul with mobility support gives us the control plane that we need, the standardized control plane, to build multiple mesh networks in the sky and then add global connectivity services and access services and integrate it completely with the mobile terrestrial network. That is exciting, and that's the future. And of course, deep space just plugs into that. So, you know, once all those guys start landing on the moon and Mars and asteroids to get diamonds or whatever they're going to get from there, it's pretty easy. It then becomes an antenna and basic physics problem.
Thank you very much, and it's nice to, let's say, see and discuss quickly and with your nice examples. Thank you again to talk about 6G. But some people here in the audience and probably around the world are saying, let's get 5G done first, right? So let's get back to business and let's do it. But thank you very much for your overview, guys. And Arunada, I would like to thank you from and all the lovely greetings to the beautiful country of Sri Lanka. And Gint, very exciting times coming up in for you at headquarters in Luxembourg. So thank you very much. And of course, Christina, thank you so much for being here.
Pleasure. Thank you.
And the nice talk to you. And I would like to thank the audience here, and you can see them on screen, and the people out there on you know, which are watching us and listening to us around the world. So I would like to call it a wrap, because I mean, the people are sitting here and you can all see it quite nicely, but they're hungry. And I think we all should go to lunch and enjoy that. So hugs and kisses from us here from Roma, and stay tuned with us, because we'll be back this afternoon after lunch, of course, with some more interesting topics. So thank you so much. And Christina, again, thank you so much. It has been very much an honor. And Gint and Arunada, thank you. See you soon, guys. And for you out there, thank you.